measured the river side channel during low flow periods because of concerns with low flows where we're putting the effluent water into that river side channel. The graph you see here covers the entire period when it was measured, about 3 months, beginning in about the 10th of July and extending through about October 1st. The really critical month or time, which is kind of makes good intuitive sense, is in July and August. And it's a little hard to tell from the scale on this graph what might be critical there. But if you flip to the next page, I did two things there. I broke it down into a shorter time period so we can look at kind of that critical time that actually this is in like August 20th to near the end of August. And the other thing I did, the data you had on the previous graph was daily averages. So the device that is placed in the river takes a measurement every 30 minutes. So there's 48 measurements a day, and I average those, the discharges that equates to over the day. So if it goes from 10 CFS to 20 CFS, you probably get a 15 CFS average. But on the graph that we're at now, I've actually plotted those for every 30 minutes. So you actually get a more or less real-time graph. And if you look, 0.2 CFS is less than we're putting in for effluent. And those, and I think I've talked about this before, but they do releases from Madison Dam for the Madison River, and that kind of makes our flow here cyclic a lot of times during the summer. If you look early on in that graph, the first 2 days, you'll see that happen where there's a relative spike and then it comes down and then another spike. And unfortunately, that was still happening, but the river was down just enough that those spikes didn't bring the water up enough to come into the side channel, so they were going down the other channel of the river. My thought would be that when this was happening, I was talking to Eric about it. Eric was following up to make sure that things were acceptable with this sort of river flow. But I can't help but think if this happens on a recurring basis, that there may be some questions. And that's just my personal opinion. But it might be a good idea to have maybe some contingency plan for that. One of the things I might point to, the Montana ditch just out of town here has a similar problem in the sense that when they're on the side channel with their diversion, when the river gets low, sometimes they have to modify the river channel, and they I won't get into the details of how they do it, but that they might be somebody to check with to talk about how it works for them and how they go about not disrupting the river anymore if they have to when they do that, if it ever becomes necessary to try and augment these flows.
So you're talking about some sort of diversion from that main channel into the side channel?
Yes, and I suppose one option might be just a low head, high volume pump. if you knew it was only gonna be a couple of days, although accessing that, in eastern Montana, everybody has one because they flood irrigate a lot. It may be a little harder to find here. But, if you were looking for several days, and it's hard to know going into it if it's gonna be a day or if it's gonna be 10 days. But just, what the Montana Ditch does is gently excavate some gravel on the upstream side. They don't cut a trench, but, they gently excavate the gravel and allow a little more water in. And I don't know if that, and there may be other options too, but.
And for members of the public who are here, the reason we're concerned about that is our permit with the Department of Environmental Quality with respect to it isn't? Okay.
It is a concern that there's not travel through there, but our permit doesn't state that there has to be water that travel
Okay.
through there.
But we want to be good citizens.
We want to make sure that we got everything covered. Correct. And our permit, I'm just interject too, our permit is under review. So when that next permit comes, I don't know.
Okay,
But
thank you.
And the reason I'm a little bit nervous about it is when I began doing this in 2012, DEQ was actually concerned about just this sort of thing and was talking about the possibility of extending the discharge either through the island and out into the main channel or going to the north and discharging near the railroad bridge. And of course both of those options are a little bit scary. Fortunately in, I guess, 6 or 7 years that they looked over our shoulder, so to speak, we always had flow in the side channel. So I know they have a concern about it, whether, I don't know the legalities of it. I just, I'd hate to have them come out in a period like this and catch us flat-footed and say, you can't do anything. And I don't know what Eric's gonna do. He's only got so much storage there and that sort of thing. So I'm not trying to make a problem where there isn't one, but I just, from when Tim Rouser was here and when I worked with him and I actually went to 2 or 3 of those DEQ meetings when they were talking about the possibility of those alternate discharges. And so I have that in the back of my mind, and maybe I'm overly cautious, but.
Thank you.
And then the last one is, for several years, I've been measuring the water level down at the lift station. There are a couple of wells that were used for dewatering wells there. Now one of those we're using just to monitor water level, and that's the blue line you see on the chart. Eric approached me about, it was actually, I think, a fuel spill monitoring well near the swimming pool, and whether to get that well abandoned, which involves some work, or if we should monitor it. And that was kind of a foolish question to ask me because I always want to monitor it. But, so that red line represents what we monitored there. We started that in August of this year, and we'll continue to monitor that well. The third one is just a well at the Lutheran Church that really isn't part of the cities, but I monitor that for the church, and I just kind of threw that in there. And the blue line and the green line are based on pretty solid elevation information. I just estimated the elevation of the casing at the pool well and eventually hope to survey that in. But looking at groundwater contours at the Lutheran Church, it would almost indicate that that well at the pool would be about the same elevation as the one at the Lutheran Church. Now, I'm extrapolating a long distance out with that, and but it made me feel reasonably good about my elevation estimate there. Eric has mentioned that where they're looking at doing the additional housing on the southeast corner of town, that they were concerned about water levels. I suggested that if the developer there wanted to put in a shallow well, I would, and give me permission to put equipment in it, I would monitor it and provide this sort of information for them and for the public. That's all I have at this time. If you have any questions or comments?
Any questions from council?
I have one. Mary.
Yes.
I seem to recall from the last presentation that you did that we have had meter irregularities for the source water before. Do we need to worry about that? Is there a repair that can be done?
The repair has been done.
And it's still difficult to predict?
They were put in essentially in December of 2026. So the, what year is this? Okay, 25. Yes. So yeah, they've been installed with that.
So we've got a year's worth of data, but we're still having trouble with predictability of the
December of
meters.
25.
25. I can't remember what year it is either.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have is like 1 month worth of testing on the new meters. Okay, I get it.
Yes. Any other questions from council? Any questions from the public? Recognizing that you didn't have these graphs in front of you. Jim, thank you very much.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank you.
it.
Thank you. I appreciate your, and I appreciate working with Eric. I think he's really providing not only numbers to me, but their information that may explain some of the differences in numbers and things. And so I think we're working well together, and I appreciate your confidence and letting me work on this project.
Thank you.
And I do have another meeting if you don't object immediately.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some of us might want to go with you. Okay. I and members of council received an email letter from Katie Schultz that is in the packet regarding the water system. Subsequent to the receipt of that email, we all received one from Ms. Amanda Stiles, and of course there was the letter to the editor in the 43 News from Ms. Gregg, I believe is the name. And so with that, I'm presuming that's why many of you are here tonight. Does anybody have any further comment with respect to those communications?
I am Ms. Gregg, actually.
Yes.
And I'm a resident of this town, and there's a lot of concerns with this, the water whole thing.